There's something absolutely magnetic about the moment a woman says to a man, "You make me feel safe." And I don't mean saying it casually or dropping it just to flatter him. I mean saying it in a way that comes from a real place of connection. When those words come out authentically, they land with such force. You can almost feel the shift happen in his mind. He goes from being interested to being invested. Why? Because you've just touched something ancient in him. Something that goes deeper than ego, deeper than attraction. You've spoken to his instinct to protect. Every man has this desire, whether he's aware of it or not. And when a woman lets him know that he makes her feel safe, not because she needs him, but because she chooses to let him in, that's when his emotional attachment to her begins to deepen. It's not about weakness. In fact, it's the opposite. When a strong, confident woman says, "I feel safe with you," what she's really doing is offering trust. And that trust, that vulnerability, is intoxicating to someone who genuinely wants to care for you. Suddenly, he's not just thinking about how beautiful you are or how fun you are. He's thinking about how you see him, how you feel when he's around, what kind of man you believe him to be. You might be thinking, but isn't it too soon to say something like that? Won't it scare him off? And the answer is, it depends how you say it. This isn't about saying it after 2 texts and a lukewarm coffee date. It's about Awa's noticing the moments where he shows up, the moments where he listens, where he's thoughtful, when he remembers the little detail you mentioned 2 weeks ago. It's those moments that build a feeling of safety, and when you choose to express it, just once, clearly, sincerely, it shifts the dynamic instantly. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you're walking with him, maybe after dinner, the two of you relaxed, laughing. You lean in a little closer, you smile, and you say, "I really love being around you. You make me feel safe." And then you let it sit. Not in a needy way. Not in a dramatic pause like you're waiting for applause. Just leave it there. I promise you, that line echoes. It's not about playing games, and it's not about trying to manipulate emotion. It's about giving him the rare gift of knowing how his presence affects you. That's the difference. You're not telling him how great he is to boost his ego. You're telling him how you feel in his presence. And that's powerful. Because here's the truth, men don't fall for women based on looks alone. They don't even fall based on chemistry. They fall in love with the way they feel around you. They fall in love with the role they get to play in your life. The value they feel they bring to it. And when you let him know that you feel safe, you're saying, "You bring peace to my world. You help me breathe deeper. You add something no one else does." Now, some people might say, "Well, shouldn't he already know that?" But here's the thing. Men aren't mind readers. And most of the time, they're not sure if what they're doing is actually landing. They don't know if their actions mean something to you unless you tell them. And when you do, when you let him see that he's making a real impact, he begins to show up even more. Not because he's trying to win you over, but because now it matters to him. He starts taking pride in how you feel. It's also worth saying, this isn't just about romantic safety. It's emotional safety. It's that feeling of knowing you can talk to him, be yourself, share something raw, and not feel judged. When a man learns that he creates that space for you, that's when you start to see his emotional walls come down too. Because most guys, even the ones who seem confident on the surface, are carrying around a silent fear. The fear that they'll never be enough. That they'll try their best and still fall short. But when you let him know, "I feel safe with you," it quiets that voice inside him, even if just for a moment. And that moment is unforgettable. So don't underestimate the power of this one sentence. Say it once, and say it when it counts. Because if you can express that from a place of truth, it's like turning a key in a lock. Suddenly, he's not just chasing a connection, he's building one. And that changes everything. You know, one of the most underrated things you can ever say to a man is this: I really respect how you handled that. That line, when said sincerely, has the power to make a man light up in a way that even "I love you" sometimes doesn't. Respect for a man often cuts even deeper than affection. It speaks to his sense of identity, his pride, his integrity. It says, I see the way you show up in the world, and I admire it. And that means everything. There's a misconception that men only want to be desired, that the key to winning his heart is attraction, chemistry, passion. And yes, those things matter, but they're not what make him stay. What makes him stay is how he feels about himself when he's around you. And when you show him that you respect the way he navigates life, it validates the part of him that's constantly trying to do the right thing, even when it's hard. Think about it. And host, men are under pressure all the time. To succeed, to lead, to stay composed, to make decisions. Many of them don't get much appreciation for it. They push through stress, solve problems, deal with criticism, and keep going. And sometimes they're not even sure if they're doing any of it right. So when a woman takes a moment to say, hey, I saw how you handled that situation. I thought it was really impressive. It cuts through all the noise. He doesn't just feel noticed. He feels understood. Let's say he dealt with a difficult situation at work. Maybe he had to fire someone, or confront a tough client, or step up and take responsibility for something that went wrong. You might not fully grasp the details, but when you say, "That must have taken a lot of courage. I really respect how you dealt with that. You're doing something rare, you're honoring the effort, not just the result." That's what men crave. Recognition for the effort they put in, especially when they're not sure anyone sees it. This isn't about flattery. It's not about buttering him up. It's about genuine appreciation. You're not worshipping him. You're shining a light on a moment that probably cost him something. Emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically. You're showing him that the way he thinks, the way he leads, the way he takes care of business, that doesn't go unnoticed. And here's the thing, it works in small moments too. It doesn't have to be some dramatic gesture. Maybe you watched him navigate a disagreement with kindness instead of anger. Maybe he took the high road when it would have been easier to be petty. Maybe he didn't avoid something hard, even though he could have. If you catch those moments and reflect them back to him, he feels seen in a way that's rare. Men, believe it or not, are constantly scanning the world for signs of where they stand. Not just in society, but in your eyes. Does she think I'm capable? Does she believe in me? Does she trust my judgment? And when the answer is yes, when you reflect that belief back to him, it changes the way he shows up for you. Not because he's trying to earn your approval, but because your respect becomes something sacred to him, something he wants to keep. What you respect, he will repeat. If you respect his ambition, you'll see more of it. If you respect his honesty, he'll offer it more freely. If you respect his integrity, he'll work even harder to protect it. Men thrive when they feel like the way they're showing up has a value to the person they care about most. Now, of course, this doesn't mean ignoring red flags or praising behavior that isn't worthy of admiration. Respect isn't about lowering your standards. It's about recognizing when someone's is living up to them. It's about being generous enough to say, I noticed that. That mattered. Because let's be honest, people go through whole relationships, even whole marriages, without hearing that kind of affirmation. They give and never really know if the way they're showing up is making a difference. And that creates distance. But when you take a moment, just once, to say, I respect how you handled that, it bridges that distance in an instant. It creates emotional gravity. He leans in. He starts thinking, what else can I do to be that man in her eyes? Because now, it's not just about impressing you. It's about living up to the version of himself that you already see. And trust me, when you become the woman who sees his character, not just his charm, you become unforgettable. You know what gets completely overlooked in relationships way too often? Specificity. I'm not talking about overanalyzing everything someone says or does. I'm talking about that simple, intentional moment where you notice something real about someone and say it out loud. That's where real emotional impact lives. So when you say to a man, I love that you, followed by something truly personal, truly specific, you're not just complimenting him. You're showing that you see him, not the image, not the idea of who he's trying to be, but the real imperfect. Beautiful details that make him uniquely who he is. And when you do that, it pierces through all the surface level stuff. It goes straight to the part of him that wants to be known. You could say, I love that you're funny. But anyone can say that. It's vague. It disappears the moment after it's said. But imagine saying, I love that your humor catches me off guard. Like the way you pretend to be annoyed when you're actually soft as hell underneath. It always makes me laugh. That hits different. That lingers. Because now you've given him a mirror. You've shown him something about himself he might not have even fully noticed before. And that's powerful. Most people go their whole lives being seen in broad strokes. You're smart. You're nice. You're good looking. Fine. But forgettable. Generic praise feels good in the moment, but it doesn't stick. It doesn't build intimacy. What builds intimacy is when someone shows that they've been paying attention, that they've noticed the small things that no one else bothers to see. When you say, I love that you get quiet when you're thinking, like I can actually see your mind working, he'll remember that. Not just because it's flattering, but because it means you're truly present with him. You're not just enjoying what he offers. You're observing who he is. And you want to know what's wild. When you get specific in that way, you give him permission to let those parts of himself show more. Suddenly, he's not trying to impress you by being something he's not. He's leaning more into what already makes him special. And that creates a much deeper connection. Because now it's not about performance. It's about presence. So often in dating, people are trying to be interesting. They're trying to stand out. But the truth is, people don't fall in love with someone because they're interesting. They fall in love because they feel understood. And understanding comes from seeing the specifics. It's what makes a man think, she gets me in a way no one else has. Not just because you said something flattering, but because you paid attention. And when you do it once, just once, it makes a huge impact. It makes him feel like he matters, that he's not just filling a role, he's being chosen for the exact way he shows up. That's what we all want at the end of the day, not to be impressive, but to be known. To have someone say, That thing you do that you didn't think anyone noticed. I love that. So maybe it's the way he talks about his friends. The way he checks your order when he picks up takeout. The way he always adds a little joke when things feel tense, just to lighten the mood. Or the way he treats animals, or kids, or your friend's annoying boyfriend. It could be anything, but when you pick that thing and say, I love that you, followed by what you've noticed, you're showing him, I don't just see you, I appreciate you. And that's the emotional lever that flips everything. Because now he's not just thinking, she's beautiful, she's fun, she's smart. He's thinking, as she sees me, she values me, she notices what makes me. And that's rare. That's something a man will chase. Not out of need, but because it feels incredible to be truly known. So don't underestimate the power of one specific sentence. One moment of real attention. One time where you reflect him back to himself with warmth, clarity, and affection. Because sometimes that one line is all it takes to make someone think, duh, I never want to lose this. There's a moment in every connection where the energy shifts, where it stops being just about having fun, sharing jokes, or physical chemistry, and starts to move into something deeper. That shift often happens the first time someone hears the words, I trust you. And not in a grand, dramatic, over-the-top kind of way, but in a quiet, grounded moment where it actually, means something. When a woman says that to a man, really says it, something changes inside him. Trust is one of the most powerful emotional currencies we have. It's rarer than love. People say, I love you, all the time. They say it to partners, to pets, to pizza. But trust, that's a completely different level. You don't give that to just anyone. So, when a man hears those words from someone he cares about, and he knows they're real, it hits hard. It's not just a compliment. It's a responsibility. It's a reflection of the kind of space he creates for you. And more importantly, it's a signal that he's earned something meaningful. A lot of women hold back from saying that because they worry it might make them vulnerable, or worse, give away too much power. But here's the truth. When trust is offered from a place of strength, not desperation, not naivety, but strength, it becomes one of the most seductive, grounding things you can ever give. Because it tells him, you didn't just win me over. You've shown me something solid. I feel safe lowering my guard with you. And men don't hear that often. In fact, many men go through relationships without ever really knowing if the woman they're with truly trusts them. Sure, she might enjoy his company, admire his qualities, even say she loves him. But trust, that's felt in the quiet between moments. When she lets him see parts of her she doesn't share with everyone. When she doesn't second guess his intentions. When she gives him the benefit of the doubt instead of assuming the worst. When she looks him in the eye and says, I trust you, and then backs it up with her energy. The irony is, most people think you wait until trust is fully established to say it. But sometimes saying it just once builds that trust. It affirms it. It creates space for it to grow. It says, I'm not perfect, and neither are you. But I'm choosing to believe in what we have. That kind of emotional courage is magnetic, and men pick up on it instantly. It's what separates someone who's just there for the fun from someone who's showing up for something real. Now, I don't mean trust in the sense of blindly ignoring red flags or making excuses for poor behavior. Real trust isn't about closing your eyes and hoping for the best. It's about keeping your eyes wide open and still choosing to lean in. It's saying, I've seen enough to know I can exhale around you. I don't have to be on guard. I don't have to perform. I can be real, boss. And when a man hears that from a woman who knows her worth, it does something to him. He wants to rise to meet that trust. He starts thinking, I want to be the kind of man she can always trust. That feeling becomes his compass. Men often walk through life with a quiet fear that they'll never be enough, that someone will get close to them and decide they're not strong enough, not smart enough, not emotionally mature enough. But when a woman says, I trust you, she cuts through that fear. She gives him a moment of peace. A moment where he doesn't have to prove anything. A moment where he's not being judged or tested. He's just being accepted. That kind of emotional safety is what makes a man want to stay close. So when the moment is right, maybe it's after a meaningful conversation, maybe it's after he shows up for you in a hard moment, or maybe it's when you just feel it in your gut. Say it. Just once. I trust you. Say it gently. Say it without pressure. Don't make a speech out of it. Just let it land and then move on. The moment will hang in the air all by itself. He'll remember it. Because in that moment, you're not just telling him how you feel. You're telling him who he is to you. You're telling him he's become a safe place in a world that can often feel chaotic. And that's not something a man forgets. It's something he'll carry with him. Something he'll protect. Something he'll want to build on. And sometimes, all it takes is those 3 simple words to change the entire direction of where the connection is going. There's a little phrase that seems so harmless, almost playful. And yet, when you use it with the right energy, at the right time, it sparks something incredibly powerful in a man's mind. Just say, I was thinking about you, and then leave a little space. Watch what happens. That pause, it's golden. It creates a ripple effect. Because now, he's not just hearing words, he's wondering. It's a sentence that opens a door. It plants a seed of curiosity. He starts asking himself questions. What was she thinking? When was she thinking about me? Why? And just like that, you've captured his attention in a completely different way. Not through force, not through effort, but through suggestion. You've entered his mind in a subtle, powerful way. And more importantly, you've let him know that he's entered yours. Now, what's so beautiful about this line is that it creates emotional space for intrigue while also expressing connection. It's not heavy. It's not overwhelming. It's not you declaring undying love. It's just a glimpse, a little window into your inner world where, in the middle of your day, or in some small moment, a he showed up. And that is so attractive. Men love the idea of being remembered, thought of, desired, yes, but also missed. It's validating in a way that few things are. Because what it really says is, you have an impact on me. That, even when you're not around, even when nothing is happening, you still cross my mind. That's the part that sticks. It doesn't even matter what you were thinking about. It could be light, like, I was thinking about you when I saw this ridiculous meme. You would have loved it. Or it could be more sincere. I was thinking about you the other night when I couldn't sleep. Your voice just popped into my head and calmed me down a little. Either way, the effect is the same. You're making him feel like he occupies space in your mental and emotional landscape. And that matters more than you think. Because here's the thing about men. They don't always know where they stand with you. Especially in the early stages. They might be trying to play it cool. They might be unsure of how much to invest. And they're always looking for signs. Not over the top declarations, but subtle signs that they're not just chasing shadows. that the connection isn't one-sided. So when you drop this little moment, I was thinking about you. You're offering reassurance without giving away too much. It's confident. It's warm. It keeps the door open for more. What makes this work so well is the tone behind it. You can be playful, curious, soft, even a little mysterious. That's what keeps it from feeling clingy or needy. You're not saying, "I miss you so much I can't function." You're simply letting him know he made an impression, that something about him lingers. And that's what draws people in. That sense that they're memorable, that they're still echoing in your thoughts. And let's not pretend men don't do this too. They think about you when a song comes on, when they drive past your favorite coffee spot, when they see a text from you they haven't opened yet. But most of them don't always say it out loud. So when you do, even just once, it creates a kind of emotional symmetry. It gives him the green light to reciprocate, to open up, to admit that he thinks about you too. What's even more powerful is that this simple sentence makes future moments possible. It sets the stage for deeper connection. Maybe he asks, "What were you thinking?" And now, you're in a moment of real conversation. Not just small talk or surface level stuff, but real emotional presence. And you didn't have to force it. You just dropped the line and let it open the door. The beauty of it is in its effortlessness. You're not chasing. You're not overshowering. You're just offering a spark. And when it comes to emotional connection, that's usually all it takes. One spark, one reminder, one brief invitation to be close. Because in that one line, you're saying, "You're not just someone I see when we're together. You're someone who stays with me when we're apart." Seth. And when a man hears that from a woman he's into, it stays with him. It makes him want to be around more, to earn more of your thoughts, to step into the space he knows he already occupies in your mind. And that is how you go from being interesting to being unforgettable. There's a moment that can change everything between two people, often without them even realizing it. It's not about saying the perfect thing, or putting on your most attractive outfit, or playing it cool. It's far more subtle than that. It's the moment when you lean in, look him in the eyes, and simply say, "I feel so good around you." And then you let it sit. You don't try to explain it. You don't try to make it more than it is. You just leave it there, hanging in the air like an electric pulse. He'll feel long after the conversation ends. We don't always realize how powerful it is to reflect this experience someone gives us. People are so used to being judged by their performance, their words, their image, but very few people hear how their presence makes someone feel. When you say to a man, "I feel so good around you," you're doing something profound. You're giving him emotional feedback he rarely hears, but deeply craves. You're showing him that it's not just what he does that matters, it's who he is when he's with you. Men, just like women, want to be a source of joy, peace, energy, calm, whatever it is that you're feeling when you're with him. And when you tell him that his presence actually affects your mood in a positive way, it makes him feel significant. That's the real magic. You're not flattering his ego. You're not validating him in a way that feeds his need for control or dominance. You're giving him something purer, emotional impact. He starts to think, "Wow, I make her feel good just by being myself." That's huge. That's what makes a man want to come closer. Because deep down, he wants to be a safe space for someone. He wants to be the guy who adds something to your life. Not just another text thread or a reason to dress up on a Saturday night. When he knows that his energy, his vibe, his way of being, actually makes you feel more relaxed, more alive, more at peace. That's when you become the person he wants to be good for. Not because he's trying to win, but because he feels inspired. And here's the part that most people miss. When you tell someone how they make you feel, they want to amplify that feeling. It becomes part of how they define themselves. If you say to him, I always feel calmer when I'm with you, suddenly, being your calm space becomes part of his identity. If you say, you make things feel lighter, even when I've had the worst day, he starts to show up more with that lightness. Not because you're asking for it, but because now he sees the value it brings. That's how intimacy builds. Through reflection, through shared emotional impact, not through expectations or pressure. And let's be honest, when someone makes you feel good, good in your body, good in your mind, good in your heart, you want to be around them. You associate their presence with ease, with relief, with laughter, with something real. And people get addicted to how you make them feel. That's what keeps them coming back. So when you say, I feel so good around you, you're doing more than just complimenting him. You're tying your emotional experience directly to your connection with him. That's unforgettable. What makes this line especially powerful is how low effort it seems. You're not pouring out your soul or making some grand romantic gesture. You're just being honest in a moment. And the best part, you don't need to explain why you feel good. In fact, don't. Leave it open. Let his mind wander. Let him fill in the blanks. That mystery pulls him in deeper. He'll start wondering, what did I do? What part of me makes her feel that way? And he'll want to do more of it, whatever it is. And even if you do explain, maybe you say, I feel safe with you. Or you make me laugh when I least expect it. Or you bring out this playful side of me I didn't even realize I missed. All of it still comes down to the same thing. You're showing him that who he is matters, that his presence enhances your experience of life, even in a small way. And that's the kind of feedback that no one forgets. Because ultimately, people remember how you make them feel. Not the clever text you sent, not the dinner you planned, not even the chemistry in the bedroom. They remember the emotions they felt when they were around you, and when you give him the gift of knowing that his presence creates a positive, lasting, emotional effect on you immediately stand out from everyone else. You're no longer just a woman he enjoys. You become a woman he feels something for. And once he feels that, he won't want to let it go.